The Galactic Empire had always been powerful, but they crossed a line this time. They had executed a human, a young man named David, in front of many witnesses. This act was not just cruel, it was meant to show everyone that the Empire could do anything they wanted. The news spread like wildfire across Earth, reaching every corner of the planet. It sent shockwaves through the hearts of people everywhere. In a small town in America, a group of friends gathered in a living room to watch the news. They had seen the footage of David's execution. The screen showed him bravely standing in front of the Empire's soldiers, his hands tied. His eyes were filled with determination, even in the face of death. As the soldiers raised their weapons, David shouted defiantly, "You will not break us!" The friends were horrified. Maria, one of the friends, turned to the group with tears in her eyes. "This is wrong! We can't just let them do this to us!" she exclaimed. The others nodded, their faces serious. They knew this was not just a tragedy, it was a call to action. Meanwhile, in a large city, the leaders of Earth gathered. They met in a grand hall filled with flags and symbols of different nations. The air was thick with tension as they discussed the situation. The President of the United States stood up, his voice strong and clear. "We cannot let the Galactic Empire get away with this," he declared. "If we do nothing, they will come for us next. We must unite and respond." Across the table, the Prime Minister of Canada agreed. "We need a plan. We cannot face them alone, but together, we can show them our strength." As the leaders spoke, a sense of urgency filled the room. They knew they had to act quickly before it was too late. Outside, crowds began to gather in the streets. People of all ages held signs that read "Justice for David" and "No More Empire." They shouted and chanted, their voices echoing through the city. The anger and sadness that had filled their hearts now turned into a powerful energy. The world was waking up. In the midst of the chaos, a young woman named Sarah stepped forward. She was a well-known activist who had fought for human rights for years. With a fiery spirit, she climbed onto a platform to speak to the crowd. "We are not just humans, we are a force to be reckoned with. They think they can kill one of us and scare us into silence. But we will not be silent." Her words sparked cheers from the crowd. As the days passed, the anger turned into determination. People across the globe began to join together. They shared ideas and resources, creating a powerful movement. Sarah and her team worked tirelessly to spread the word. They used social media, old-fashioned flyers, and word of mouth to reach everyone. "This is our time to stand up," they urged. The leaders of Earth saw the growing movement and knew they needed to take action. They decided to form a coalition, bringing together the best minds in science, technology, and strategy. They gathered scientists who had been working on advanced weapons and military tactics. They knew they had to be ready for a fight. Meanwhile, the Galactic Empire watched from afar, unaware of the storm brewing on Earth. They believed their power was unshakable, but they were about to learn a valuable lesson. Humans would not be so easily broken. The world was changing. The Empire's cruel act had united humanity in a way that was never thought possible. The anger that had started as sadness now burned bright with the desire for justice. The stage was set for a battle that would change everything. As night fell over the cities of Earth, people looked up at the stars, knowing that soon they would rise against the darkness of the Galactic Empire. David's sacrifice would not be forgotten. It would light the way for a new era of resistance. After the shocking execution of David, the people of Earth were filled with anger and a desire for revenge. They knew they could not let the Galactic Empire get away with this terrible act. In cities around the world, groups began to form, united by a common goal, to fight back against their oppressors. In a secret location, a group of leaders gathered. Sarah, the passionate activist, was there along with military generals, scientists, and strategists. They all understood that this was a critical moment for humanity. The room was filled with energy as they discussed their plan. Sarah stood up, her voice strong and determined. "We need to prepare for war. We can't just fight, we need to win," she said. General Richards, a seasoned military leader, nodded in agreement. "We must gather our forces and train them quickly. The Empire will not wait for us to get ready." He laid out a plan to assemble troops from different countries and create a unified army. Everyone knew this was not just about fighting, it was about survival. As the meeting continued, scientists shared exciting news. Dr. Patel, a brilliant scientist, had been working on new technology. "We have developed advanced weaponry that can match the Empire's technology. If we use it wisely, we can turn the tide in our favor, she explained, showing them blueprints for powerful energy weapons. The group felt a surge of hope. With new weapons and strong leadership, they could stand a chance against the Empire. However, Sarah knew they needed more than just weapons. They needed the support of the people. We must inspire everyone to join us. This is a fight for all humanity, she urged. Meanwhile, across the globe, people began to organize. In community centers and parks, groups of citizens gathered to discuss their next steps. They shared ideas and stories, each one fueled by the desire for justice. Maria, one of Sarah's friends, took the lead in her community. We need to spread the word. Let everyone know that we are fighting back, she said passionately. Flyers were posted, and social media exploded with messages of unity. Hashtags like Dias Rise Up and Dias Justice for David went viral, drawing more people into the movement. Young people, old people, and families began to rally together, showing strength in their numbers. In a small town, a group of teenagers decided to take action. They created a video showing their support for the fight against the Galactic Empire. They shouted, "We are not afraid! We will stand for our people." The video quickly gained attention, inspiring others to take similar steps. As the days passed, Earth's leaders announced the formation of the United Human Front, UHF. They called for volunteers to join the cause. The response was overwhelming. People from all walks of life signed up, ready to train and fight for their freedom. Back at the secret meeting, General Richards began organizing training camps across the world. We will train our forces in military tactics, strategy, and teamwork. Every person counts, and we need to work together, he said. The training camps would prepare volunteers for the battles ahead, teaching them how to use the new weapons effectively. While this was happening, Sarah and her team worked hard to establish connections with other alien groups who had suffered under the Empire. They reached out to those who were oppressed, inviting them to join the fight for freedom. Together we are stronger, Sarah said during a virtual meeting with leaders of these alien groups. We can take down the Empire together. As hope spread, the message of unity reached far and wide. More and more alien allies agreed to support humanity's cause. They provided intelligence and resources, making the UHF even stronger. The Galactic Empire continued to underestimate humanity, believing they were broken and weak. Little did they know, the fire of rebellion was growing brighter every day. In every corner of Earth, people trained, planned, and prepared for the battle to come. With every passing day, their determination grew stronger. They were no longer just individuals. They were part of a united force. The battle for justice was about to begin, and they were ready to fight back with everything they had. As the sun set over the horizon, Sarah looked out at the vast sky, feeling the weight of responsibility. She knew that they were on the brink of something monumental. They would not let David's death be in vain. The forces of humanity were gathering, and soon they would rise to take back their future. The time for action had come. After weeks of preparation, the United Human Front, UHF, was ready to launch its first strike against the Galactic Empire. The mood was tense, but there was also excitement in the air. The leaders gathered in a command center, looking at maps and plans spread out on the table. Sarah stood at the front, her eyes filled with determination. "Today we show the Empire that we are not afraid," she said. "This is our chance to strike back and send a clear message. We will fight for our freedom." The room erupted in cheers. Everyone knew that this was a crucial moment for humanity. General Richards outlined the plan. Our target is a supply base on the outskirts of a nearby planet. This base provides essential resources for the Empire's forces. If we can take it down, we will weaken their hold on our galaxy. The plan was daring, but the soldiers were ready. As the team prepared for the mission, Sarah gathered the troops. "You are not just soldiers, you are heroes!" she exclaimed. "Today, you fight for every person who has suffered under the Empire. We fight for David and for all those who cannot fight for themselves." The soldiers felt the weight of her words. They knew they were part of something much bigger. The moment had arrived. Ships filled with soldiers took off from Earth, soaring into the stars. The pilots were focused, determined to reach their target without being detected. As they flew through space, tension hung thick in the air. Each soldier was filled with a mix of fear and courage. They knew they were heading into battle. When they arrived at the planet, they saw the supply base. It was heavily guarded, with Empire ships flying around like angry wasps. General Richards ordered the pilots to approach quietly. "We must catch them by surprise," he reminded everyone. The soldiers, hidden in their ships, watched as they waited for the right moment. Suddenly, they saw a gap in the Empire's defenses. "Now!" shouted the general. The ships darted forward, weapons ready. The attack was swift and fierce. As they opened fire on the supply base, explosions lit up the night sky. The Empire soldiers were caught off guard, scrambling to defend their base. The UHF soldiers moved quickly, landing their ships and charging into the fray. Sarah fought alongside her comrades, her heart racing. She could feel the adrenaline coursing through her veins as she fired her weapon at the Empire soldiers. The energy blasts whizzed past her, but she pushed through, determined to fight for her people. The battle was intense. Soldiers shouted commands, and the sound of blaster fire filled the air. The UHF fought with everything they had, their training shining through. They worked together, covering each other as they pushed further into the base. In the chaos, Sarah spotted a group of Empire soldiers trying to regroup. "Over there!" she shouted to a nearby squad. "Let's take them out!" The squad moved as one, sneaking up on the Empire soldiers. In a coordinated attack, they struck swiftly, taking them by surprise. Victory felt sweet, and the UHF soldiers began to believe they could win. Meanwhile, General Richards coordinated the attack from his command ship. He watched as his soldiers fought bravely, their spirit shining brightly. He knew that taking down this supply base was just the beginning, but it was a critical step toward defeating the Empire. As the battle continued, the UHF soldiers began to gain ground. They planted explosives around the supply base, preparing to destroy it completely. "Get back!" someone shouted, and the soldiers moved to safety just in time. With a loud boom, the explosives detonated, sending debris flying into the air. The supply base was engulfed in flames, and the Empire soldiers panicked, realizing they were losing. The UHF soldiers cheered as they saw their plan succeed. They had struck a powerful blow against their oppressors. As the battle came to a close, the remaining Empire soldiers surrendered. The UHF had won their first battle. Exhausted but elated, they regrouped and celebrated their victory. They had sent a clear message to the Galactic Empire: humanity would no longer be silenced. As Sarah looked around at her fellow soldiers, she felt a surge of hope. They had taken the first step in reclaiming their future. "This is just the beginning," she said, her voice strong. "Together we will fight until we are free." With the flames of victory burning in their hearts, the UHF soldiers knew they were ready for whatever came next. They had proven that they could stand up to the Empire, and their fight for justice was far from over. After the successful attack on the supply base, the soldiers of the United Human Front, UHF, felt a surge of confidence. They celebrated their victory, knowing they had struck a blow against the Galactic Empire. However, in the dark corners of space, the Empire was not idle. They were furious and determined to respond. Back at their command center, the Empire's leaders were meeting. Commander Zarek, a ruthless and cunning strategist, slammed his fist on the table. "We cannot let this act of rebellion go unanswered. We will show them the price of defiance." His eyes burned with anger as he plotted their next move. The Empire quickly gathered their forces. Ships were prepared and soldiers were mobilized. They would launch a surprise attack on Earth, aiming to crush the UHF before they could gather more strength. The Empire believed that fear was the best weapon, and they intended to use it. Meanwhile, Sarah and the other leaders of the UHF were busy making plans for their next mission. They knew the Empire would retaliate, but they were ready to fight back. "We need to keep our momentum going," Sarah said, her voice steady. "We have to find a way to strike again before they come for us." As they discussed their strategy, alarms suddenly blared in the command center. The screens lit up with urgent messages. "Incoming enemy ships! The Empire is attacking!" a technician shouted, panic in her voice. The mood shifted from excitement to fear in an instant. "Everyone get to your stations," General Richards commanded, his voice calm but firm. "We must defend our home." Soldiers rushed to prepare for battle, grabbing their weapons and rushing to their ships. Outside, the sky darkened as the Empire's fleet approached. Massive warships filled the horizon, blocking out the stars. The UHF soldiers could feel the dread as they realized the size of the enemy force. "We have to hold them off," Sarah shouted, rallying the troops. "We fought for our freedom, and we will not let them take it back." As the Empire's ships opened fire, beams of energy shot toward Earth. The UHF scrambled to their ships, launching into the air to meet the incoming threat. The battle began, with ships weaving in and out of explosions. The sound of blasters filled the air, a symphony of chaos and destruction. General Richards coordinated the defense from his command ship. "We need to protect our cities. Target their lead ships and take them down." The UHF fighters darted through the fray, focusing their fire on the Empire's warships. The Empire was ruthless. Their ships were well armed, and they fought with a ferocity that shook the UHF soldiers. "They are overwhelming us!" one soldier shouted as his ship took a hit. The UHF was outnumbered, but they fought back with everything they had, refusing to back down. In the midst of the chaos, Sarah found herself face to face with an Empire pilot. Her heart raced as she engaged in a fierce dogfight, dodging blasts and firing back. She could see the determination in her opponent's eyes, but she was fueled by the memory of David and all the lives lost. "Not today!" she yelled, firing her weapon with precision. With a burst of energy, she hit the enemy ship, sending it spiraling out of control. Sarah felt a surge of triumph, but she knew the battle was far from over. Back on Earth, the situation grew dire. The Empire's forces began to bombard the cities, causing destruction and chaos. People ran for shelter, their lives shattered in an instant. The UHF soldiers fought desperately to protect their home, but the Empire's strength was overwhelming. "Fall back! We need to regroup," General Richards shouted. He knew they had to retreat to save their remaining forces. The UHF soldiers slowly pulled back, covering each other as they withdrew from the fight. As they landed, the reality of the battle sank in. The Empire had struck hard, and Earth was in danger. The UHF had lost many brave soldiers that day, and the cost of the fight weighed heavily on their hearts. Sarah stood among her comrades, her spirit unbroken. "We have faced defeat today, but we will rise again," she said firmly. "This is not the end. We will regroup, train harder, and fight back." The soldiers nodded, their determination rekindled. They knew that the Empire would not stop until they crushed humanity completely. But they also knew that they had the strength of their unity, the fire of their spirit, and the memory of their fallen comrades to guide them. As night fell, the UHF began to make plans for the future. They would not let fear define them. They would fight for their freedom and take back what was theirs. The Empire may have struck back, but the war was far from over. With resolve in their hearts, the UHF prepared for the battles to come. They would learn from their losses and grow stronger. The fight for humanity had just begun, and they would not back down. After the fierce battle against the Galactic Empire, the soldiers of the United Human Front, UHF, were more determined than ever. The losses they suffered weighed heavily on their hearts, but their spirit remained unbroken. They had learned from their defeats and were ready to make a final stand. In the weeks that followed, Sarah and General Richards worked tirelessly to prepare for the ultimate confrontation. They knew the Empire would come for them again, and they needed to be ready. The command center buzzed with activity as soldiers trained and strategized, united by a shared goal, freedom. "Today we take the fight to them," Sarah declared during a meeting with her team. "We have found their main base, a heavily fortified planet called Zentar. If we can destroy it, we will cripple the Empire and show them that humanity will not back down." The room erupted in cheers and determination filled the air. As the UHF prepared their fleet, Sarah reflected on the journey that had brought them to this moment. She thought of David, the brave soldier they had lost, and how far they had come since that tragic day. They were no longer just a group of rebels. They were a formidable force, ready to challenge the Empire.